suffered an inflicted gunshot wound, self-inflicted gunshot wound. I get these about twice, 3 times a week. I'm almost scared to open them anymore because invariably it's the same story. Different name, different state, different location, maybe different method of committing suicide. This is an alarming situation, and we have to figure it out in terms of slowing what's happening here in terms of the momentum of this particular tragedy. And I tell you that what I think the solution is I think we, as a group, have to reach out to that soldier and convince them that there is an alternative to taking your own life. There's a lot of things that have happened to me since I was 19 years old, but there aren't very many or any that would even make me consider that as an option. And yet, the young people we have inside of our formations, 60% have never deployed that commit suicide. They're normally first-termers. They're normally white males. They have some significant emotional event that happened to them. Divorce, loss of job, broke up with a girlfriend, boyfriend, you name it. The coping skills that we have in the next generation are not as strong as the coping skills that came from our organization, my generation, and your generation. And so we all have to reach out and know what is going on in that soldier's life, whether you happen to be the squad leader, the section sergeant, whether you happen to be the family member, or whether you happen to be the employer. For me, my squad is the Command Sergeant Major, the Command Chief of the National Guard, Special Assistants. And it's my obligation to know what's going on around them. And I'd submit to you that it's your obligation, if we're going to turn this trend around, to know who is out there in your immediate area of responsibility, what's going on in their life, and reach out and try and help them. So I would ask that as a team we come together, focus on this particular issue. And there's no question in my mind, we have been successful in what's 2 wars now, and there's no question that we can be successful in this. So I solicit your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Turning now to our Director of our Joint Staff, Mike Sumrall.
Well, Ray spoke a little bit on a somber note there, and I guess I'm going to take off on that a little bit too, because I'm going to tell you a sad story. But I really want this sad story to have a really good outcome, and I want those of you in the room that can influence the outcome to think about it and try to do something about it, and you'll probably never know the result of what I'm asking you to do, but it's very significant. In January of 2007, I got a phone call, and I got asked to go to California to represent the Secretary of the Army at a funeral for a young soldier, a regular Army soldier. And I was glad to do it, honored to do it. And when I got out there, they pulled me aside and said, "Sir, we have a little bit of a problem here. We have an unusual family situation." And this young soldier, 22 years old, had had a relationship when he was a junior in high school and had a child, and they had not been married. He joined the Army. He was in a unit in Alaska, had deployed from Alaska. He'd been married about 4 months when he deployed, and he had a young 19-year-old wife. And they said this soldier failed to let the Army know that he had a child. And the first place we're going to go see is we're going to go see the child, the child's mother, and the child's grandmother, who's a single parent who's raising the daughter and the granddaughter. And you're going to have to explain to the mother why there are no benefits for this child. That was a very hard experience to do, and there is a way to solve that. We did work through it. But the lesson I took away from that was when our men and women go through the deployment line, they need to really stop and think about what happens if I'm on a one-way trip. What happens to the people that I really love? What happens to the people that I have a meaningful relationship? What happens to the people in my life that were maybe in a different part of my life but I still care about? So many of you in this room go to those deployments. Many of you control who deploys, when they deploy, and how the soldier readiness programs are set up. And if you'll just stop and talk to these airmen and soldiers and say, take a minute, don't just move through the line. Take a minute, think about this, think about the people you care about, think about your special situations, and work your way through it. This is more important than getting to the next station. So I'd just like to ask all of you to think about that, take that on, and move out from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And we asked the adjutants general and spouses to stand up, but I just couldn't be more proud to be part of this association. Working with Greg, and represents the other 53. We've made a lot of progress this year. And for those of you in the room, I think we have 49 adjutants general here. And the other states have sent senior representatives. So for those of you who are volunteers, I think that's a great tribute. So Greg Waite, over to you.
Hey, Chief, thanks. Let me just say on behalf of the 54 adjutant generals and our spouses, to all the volunteers, and to everybody that's here, thanks. I know Admiral Mullins talked a little bit about it, but we can't thank you enough for all the great things that you do for us, because it isn't about us, it's about all of you. And one thing that I know is when you bring this team together, there isn't anything that we can't solve collectively together. And if you've been in the program for a while and you watched the family programs from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, to maybe there was 2 or 3 people that worked in the state family program office, to where we're at today, to all of you, to all of our programs that have expanded, you know, it's limitless what you all can do. So from all of us, we just want to say thanks. Thanks for your efforts. Thanks for your feedback to us. Thanks for telling us what you need so that we can make that happen for you and expand this program to make this the greatest family readiness program in the service, because it's the right thing to do not only for the families, but our soldiers and airmen. Because you see, I had a first sergeant that deployed in 2004 that said, we don't need family programs. And I know the sergeant major's back there smiling. He came back and he said, I get it now. I understand why we have to have family programs, strong family programs, wrapped around our service members, because we couldn't have done the things we were asked to do without those programs. So it truly is great, but I want to add on to what General White was talking about, children, because, you know, as we go through multiple deployments, our children are different ages as we go through these multiple deployments. So think about the changes in their lives as they become older, as they go through deployments with us, and what the effects of those deployments are having on different ages as they go through the deployments. And it's one of the things I can tell you that we're truly focusing on. Suicides. I might encourage everybody to as Secretary McCarthy said, strap it on unless we need to talk about it. I took a risk this year at our annual family program, and we actually briefed the Army Suicide Prevention Program to our family members. The feedback was, thanks. Because we need to include our families right side by side with us as we address suicides and work collectively together, so we don't lose any service members. Last thing, TRICARE. I was talking to some of my family members a minute ago. We've been at this for 8 years, this TRICARE or longer. We've got to get this one resolved. We've got to get this thing resolved, because this one's going on way too long, and we got to fix it. Last thing I'll just say is, you know, our families serve side by side, and they sacrifice just as much as our service members do. But we truly are a family of 450,000 members. And when you talk to families, what they tell you, you know, there's nothing like this in the civilian world that we have. So this family program truly is a treasure. It truly is a treasure of ours that we have in this National Guard, so that we all stick together to get through the good times and to get through the hard times. So to the volunteers from all 54 of us and our spouses, thanks for what you do for us, and we truly appreciate everything you do.
Thanks, Greg. I know many of your questions will surround finance, economy, support. Lou Cabrera, who's our Senior Executive Service Comptroller, does so much with the Army, Air, and Joint Staff. Their comptrollers are all pulling the same way. We're trying to fund those things nearest and dearest to our hearts. If you don't know Lou, get to know him. He's a former USPFO from Nevada, and he knows our business and he knows our culture.